Good morning, everybody. We are live on the Jungle, the Liger podcast, and I am here with Tasha. Is it Whitener?
Whitener.
Whitener with Waymark Foster. Welcome to the show, Tasha.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
It's great to have you. Well, we have you on today because we want to learn more about you and what you're doing. You're I assume it's a nonprofit organization.
Correct.
And give us a little background on yourself.
All right. Well, I'm married. I have a 19-year-old son. He goes to KSU. That's just some personal information about me. So we work with kids in foster care. And so to back up a little bit, I grew up in a fairly sheltered home, didn't really understand the plight of kids in foster care or know much about it. But I was working at First Baptist Woodstock, and I went to a conference and I heard a couple speak. It's Wayne and Diane Tesh, and they were the Royal Family Kids Camp, which is now called For the Children. And they did camps for kids in foster care. And when I heard them speak, it was just like my eyes were opened and I was like, we have to do something about this. This isn't okay that what's happening to these kids that are in foster care. And so I think it was at that point that, God really laid that on my heart to do it, but it wasn't the right time. I was really young, not prepared to do anything to take something like that on. And so it wasn't for about 10 years later that we started our first camp in 2008, Royal Family Kids Camp. So that's kind of a little bit of background. So I don't know if you want me to go right into it or, but that's kind of how we started.
So this has been a process that's been happening since 97?
Correct.
And give me a quick where we started to where we are now.
Okay, so in 2008, like I said, we started our first Royal Family Kids Camp. We had 28 kids, 6 to 12-year-olds. We take them for a week of camp and we do normal camp activities, fishing, hiking, swimming, all of those things you think about when you went to camp when you were a kid. But we also do activities tailored just for them. So we do a princess ball for our girls. So they get all dressed up in their beautiful gowns and they, walk the runway and they have a chocolate fountain and we've had limo before. We just make them feel special because they should feel special. And the boys, we've done anything from, like karate to superhero night, which is what we're doing this next year. And things like that. We celebrate their birthdays because many times these kids have never had their birthday recognized, much less celebrated. So we do it upright and have gifts, presents, and we make them feel special again, which is just so important. And we give them mail throughout the week. We have camp therapists that are on hand in case there are triggers, things like that, which can happen. We have a 2-to-1 ratio of big campers, which is, we call them big campers, not counselors, because it's not their job to counsel. It's their kid. It's their job to just be there and hang out and have fun with the kids. So that's our Royal Family Kids Camp. I'll tell you that very first year, 2008, was probably the hardest thing I have ever done. And I've been in ministry for a long time now. And at First Baptist was like, programming is like huge. So we did camps for like hundreds of kids, programming for hundreds of kids. So I thought, a camp for 28 kids, what's, nothing, right? So when you're working with kids that are in the system, it's a whole different dynamic, a whole different world. So anyways, it was the most difficult, but the most rewarding and incredible week of my life. So that was 2008, 28 kids.
What made it so difficult?
There's a lot of red tape when you're working with the system. There's a lot of hoops to jump through. The training is pretty intense. So our volunteers go through about 12 hours of training, an intense interview process. You really have to have really high standards, or we have high standards with those who work with our kids. So you're just dealing with a different set of circumstances. So these kids that come in to our camps just are dealing with a lot of junk. And so, like, for example, that very first year, we were told to not have anything with tomato sauce because we have a young lady who would get triggered because of something that's happened to her in the past. So we were trying to be really careful. No red sauce, no spaghetti, no nothing. Well, somehow it kind of got through. We ended up having a meal that had red. She shut down for like a day. I mean, literally would not communicate at all. So our therapist had to work with her and try to kind of get her past that and redirect and all of that. And we did, and it ended up being an incredible rest of the week for her. But it's those types of things that you have to take into consideration and prepare for with these kids. And those are things that we didn't know going into that first year, right? I mean, it's just trial and error. We were all brand new. Nobody had ever worked with these kids, this population before. I was the only one who had been trained. Me and two others had been trained. And then we trained the others. So they had been trained, but they had never actually worked with the kids, which is a very different thing. Training and then actually working with these kids. And you have to understand the kids come in with a lot of trust issues. So there's a lot of walls that they have built up, understandably. So you have to be patient and work with them because of those walls that have been built up. So throughout the years, we've added different staff. So like, and everybody's a volunteer that goes and serves at camp. But we have therapy dogs. We have multiple camp therapists. We have nurses like you wouldn't believe. So because they have meds, they have like serious, like some psychotropic meds. They have like pages of medications. So it's just a different world. It really is. So yeah.
It's just more intense, higher need, more care.
Exactly. And that's why we have a 2-to-1 ratio, because in some instances we have a 1-to-1 ratio because the needs are just so high there that they need that one-on-one attention. And that's really important. So,
wow.
So yeah, if you want me to fast forward. So that very first year, 2008, just to finish answering your question, 2008, we had 28 kids. So now, and I'll go to 2019 because 2020 was kind of weird and we served about 200 kids, but that was way under what we typically serve. So I'll back up a little bit to 2019. So we served close to 500 kids that year. So we went from a camp in 2008 to now we have 4 programs. So we have our Royal Family Kids Camp. We have our Journey Weekend, which is our weekend camp for our teenagers, 12 to 17. We have Extreme Journey, which is life and job skills training. And so we do that. We do Saturday trainings, but we also weave that throughout our Compass groups, which are part of our Community for Youth mentoring program, which is the next program. So we do one-on-one mentoring, and we do Compass groups, which is group mentoring. And then we have a Christmas party. So we've grown since then. So we have over 400 volunteers that work with us, over 27,000 volunteer hours. We have literally the best of the best volunteers working with us. So that's where we were. That's where we are now. It's been incredible. God has been so faithful to provide. And majority of our funding comes from individuals and, families, really. That's a large portion of our funding. So source. And we don't charge for everything. We don't charge for anything that we do. So everything is free for our kids, our families. We feel like that's important. So we raise every penny that we use for these kids.
That's amazing. Well, thank you for doing that. I remember I'm actually from Southern California, and when I was in San Diego, I was involved in a charity called the All About the Kids Foundation.
Oh, wonderful.
And we would put on a day for kids that were in a group home, homeless school type of situation, where it was that life skills. And the part that I would play would be I'd interview them for a job, and they'd have and sometimes I'd send them back. They'd come back to me, and so. Other things were much, much harder. And it was like giving them a glimpse of, okay, this is what I need to do. This is an education. Right. And then they continued with follow-up on that. So that life skills thing that you do, I see as so important.
It is very important.
Especially for kids who are I'm assuming they don't have as much of a support structure or any at all.
Mm-mm.
Um, so no, having that knowledge and that basically basic survival skills
Mm-hmm.
for this
Right.
for this world. Now, how do you go? I know how we did it? How do you go about teaching that?
So, so really, as far as like life and job skills training, we've done it a few different ways. So we've kind of tweaked throughout the years, but we do Saturday trainings where we bring in special speakers to come in and talk with the kids. I'll tell you what I feel like is the most effective. You know, we're all about relationships. So that's who we are. That's what we feel like the kids need the most. That support through a relationship. So our Compass groups it's group mentoring. And so they meet on a weekly basis. We really get to know these kids, like who they are, like what is their skill set, what are their dreams, that kind of thing. And so through that, we learn kind of what they're wanting to do. Like for example, if somebody feels like I don't know, they want to be an accountant or, they want to be a welder or whatever. We connect them with the right people, with the resources that they need to make that happen, with the job skills training, or with college prep if they want to go, to college and that kind of thing. So it's through that relationship that we know what they need and can connect them with the right people. So we do that. We also do the Saturday trainings. We really are finding that it's just so much better to implement that through that one-on-one kind of relationship. So, so we kind of do it in a variety of different ways. And so, like in the spring of this year, we're going to take the training to then we'll do some more maybe like group trainings, but we'll take it to the group homes. And then probably later on in the year, we're going to do our Saturday training, maybe, a couple of those. It's the dynamics of trying to get the kids to a location can be a challenge. So we're just finding it's easier to take it to them. And so that's kind of in a nutshell. So it's ever changing. We try to work, we try to find what works with these kids. And clearly, circumstances in our world today are determining how we do that. And so when everything was shut down, we still maintain that contact through virtual, means, through Zoom, things like that. We delivered, care packages to them and things like that. So, and we're going to do some video. We're in the process of doing some video trainings. So life job skills training via, video. So then we can just, if they're not able to meet with us in person, then we can just let them connect to those trainings. So
I'm just thinking back to when I was that age. I think I wanted to be either a professional fisherman or a race car driver.
right.
So, what about the kids who really don't have like a realistic focus or thinking, yeah, maybe being a firefighter would be a good occupation for
Yeah.
me. How do you help them find a direction?
Well, I would say for our older kids, a lot of our older kids, yeah, I mean, they really kind of need some help kind of finding that direction. But, and I think, you just take them whatever track that they're feeling led. So if they're feeling led to go, to college, and you just take them step by step through that process. Same thing with, and if they don't know what field they want to go into, then, it's just connecting them with the right person that maybe can do kind of those skills assessments or, to assess kind of what they're built for, what they're made for. And a lot of what we do is trying to help them understand what God's purpose and plan is for them, because the foundation of what we do is communicating you are loved and you are valued and God has a purpose and plan for you. So everything we're doing is, what is that plan he has for you? He created you. He knew you before you were born and he's got a plan. So let's, pray together and let's see what that is and help you fulfill that purpose. So that's a big part of what we do. And that's a big part of our mentorship program because they've got one person that can kind of stick with them and help them on that journey and walk them through that and see what that looks like and, help them fulfill that purpose.
That's great. It's like the purpose of Waymark is helping other people find their purpose.
Exactly. Yes. And that's why we actually, my husband and I were the ones we founded the nonprofit, which at the time was Kids Cubed. And so it was Kids S with a superscript 3, skill, support, success. So a couple of years ago, we just felt the need to rebrand because we don't just work with kids anymore. At the time, we just worked with 6 to 12, but now we work with 18 plus, so 6 to 18 plus. And so we just needed a name that really reflected who we were. And that's why we landed on Waymark. And so, it's like, it like evokes, the name evokes like progress. It's like a guidepost. It's like direction, resources, a path forward. It's like showing them the way on their journey. So it's kind of like what you said. It made me think of that's why we're Waymark. It's showing you, helping you along that path to that purpose that God has for you. So. Yeah.
That was going to be my next question. You already got it. The reason behind the name, and that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I know you still have to keep some of these like for privacy's sake. You probably don't want to go too deep into things, but can you talk about some of the program successes?
Oh, absolutely. So. Mary Kate to me is like the perfect example of what we're wanting to do. And so Mary Kate came to us in 2008. She was there at the very first camp, and she was just a little bitty thing, and she was scared and shy, and she was just precious, but she just didn't know who to trust at the time. And so she had an incredible week of camp. It's like when they come to us, sometimes they kind of have that like kind of hollow, just such a sad demeanor. But then by the end of the week, like that smile would just light up a room. I mean, she was just full of so much joy by the end of the week because she realized like I'm loved and I'm valued. She was having some difficulties in her foster home. Some things that shouldn't have been happening were happening. So we were able to kind of intervene there and help in that situation. So she ended up going back with her biological mom and was there for a while. But through that process, we were able to walk with her. She went through all of our programming. She went through our Journey Weekend, which was Extreme Life at that time. We've changed the names of our programs when we rebranded. She went through that. She went through our mentoring program. So she's had 2 mentors actually through this. And then we were able to connect her with a couple who then took guardianship of her for a couple of years. And so she has since, aged out. And she has graduated from high school. She's going to college. She's married. She loves the Lord. She actually wants to do this. Like she was like, come on. So she wants to work in the system that she does. She wants to do camps for kids. She just an incredible young lady, and she's serves with us. So she's served at camp before. Just an incredible young lady. That's just the perfect example of what we're trying to do here. It's a comprehensive ministry that works with them from when they're young and then walks with them until they age out and they're able to be successful on their own. So that's our goal. So yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's so cool. A lot of people, graduating high school is a big step for a lot of people, especially kids who come from a more challenging background. But then actually going beyond that to graduate college and get married, and she is bucking the expectation.
Yeah. She is.
So, what is the most rewarding thing for you about this process?
I think it's that. I mean, talking about Mary Kate, it's when, at camp, like I said, especially our older camp, so like the teenagers, especially those who come from group homes, it's when they come to us and they're angry, they're just flat mad, and I understand that, and they've got these walls and they've got this hollow look in their eye just because of everything that's happened to them. Then when you see them on Sunday or you see them on Friday for the younger kids, and that joy and that hope To me, that's worth everything, is when they realize, and I know I keep saying this, but it's really just who we are, is that they are such high value, and that, you know, God created them and they have a purpose. And when that light goes on, to me, that is that's what it's all about. And, you know, our compass groups are, I think, huge. That's one of my favorite things that we do now, because it's that weekly ongoing investment in the lives of these teenagers. And I was on a call the other day with our homes, with the staff, and then with our volunteers, and just to hear the detail, like how much they know about these kids. And it's the kids that have aged out, and it's like they come back and we find out how they're doing, and it's just being so engaged and involved in our lives. And to me, that is so key, because our kids fall through the cracks so easy. And the only way we're going to be able to help them not do that is to have that connection. You know, that is just, it's so critical. I could give you stories of those who have fallen through the cracks, and we can't find them. And it's disturbing, honestly. And so it is critical that while we have them in the system, that we make those connections, so that when they age out, they've got someone to come back to, and someone that can walk with them on those important milestones in their life. Somebody when they, you know, graduate from college, or, you know, when they get married and things like that. So, you know, we have a young man who went through our program. It's been years, but and he was connected to a mentor, and he kind of went in and out and in and out. But he would always come back to the mentor. He would always come back to him and get his advice and his input, and they would get together and have some wings, you know, that kind of thing, play basketball. He was always that consistent person for him. And like I said, he might go away for months, but he'd always come back. And he ended up being able to go to college, the college of his dreams in Washington, for like a couple $1,000s, less than a couple of thousand, because of that connection, you know, to the right person. And him, he actually did a lot of the right things as far as, you know, making that happen as well. But, you know, and he came back to the mentor, and he said, if it wasn't for you, this wouldn't have happened. I mean, you kept me on the right track, and I always knew I could come back to you. Like, I didn't always know that I wanted this relationship. I didn't always want it. Like, I kind of went off and did my own thing, but I always knew that you were there for me. And so that was just such a stabilizing factor, and it's such an important factor in his life. And so, yeah, it's important.
You're getting me all emotional. That's fantastic. What is one thing that you wish the general public knew about Waymark and what you do, and the situation of these children?
So I would say there's a way for every single person to get involved. You know, if you don't have a lot of time and you need flexibility, I mean, you can write cards for these kids, you know, on your own time, write cards for them. We send them birthday cards throughout the year. And then we give them cards at camp, and they treasure those cards. I mean, they treasure them for years and years and years. I'll talk to kids, and they'll be like, you know, I still have all my cards from camp, still have all my photo albums from camp. And some of these kids, those are the only pictures they have from their childhood. And, you know, so I think I would say, prayerfully consider being involved in some way, shape, or form, even if it's, you know, writing cards, because that's so important. If it's going to camp and being a camp counselor, if it's being a mentor. So we have all sorts of different levels to get involved. If you've thought about fostering and it just seems too, like, that's just huge, like I can't do that. Well, you know, come to camp. Serve for a day at our life skills training, you know, get your feet wet. And so many times people will do that, and they'll go, okay, you'll meet these kids and go, I can't not be involved in their lives. And, you know, many times it leads them to actually be foster parents, because they realize that's doable. And sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes they just stay involved in our program, and our counselors or mentors and that kind of thing. And you can give. I mean, that's a way to be involved as well. So there's any number of ways, but I think we can all do something to be involved in the lives of these kids, and they need it. And it's urgent, because we only have a certain limited amount of time with them. And then they're going to age out. And statistically, like 80% of our prison population are former foster children. And 60 to 80%, we hear about human trafficking all the time. 60 to 80% of those are our kids. that are involved in that, because they're the most vulnerable population. So if we get involved now and intervene now, then maybe we can prevent these things happening in the future. And so I just think it's just urgent for us to get involved. And these kids are amazing. They're the most incredible kids, the most resilient kids I've ever met in my life. And they're a joy. And it's messy. Involvement, it is. I mean, it's messy, but it's worth it. It's worth every minute of it. And so that's what I would say.
What would be the first step that someone can take to getting involved with Waymark?
I would say go to our website, waymarkfoster.org, and then you can reach out to me, info@waymarkfoster.org as well. So I would just say get in touch with us. We can talk through what that involvement may look like, and and take it from there. So I would say that would be the first step. So.
Mm-hmm. And can they also reach out to you on the socials like Twitter and Facebook?
Absolutely, yes. So we're at Waymark Foster on all of those platforms. So,
well, Tasha, thank you so much for coming on the show. I am going to look into Waymark Foster a lot more. You've really sparked an interest in me, and I hope for everyone who's watching this as well. So, thank you so much for what you do.
Thank you.
Thank you for those kids.
All right. Thank you so much. It's been a joy to talk with you. I appreciate it.
You have a wonderful day.
All right. You too. Take care.